right, the UFO controversy. Did a spaceship visit Texas 2 weeks ago? First denial, now official acknowledgement that something lit up the sky. What was it? Was there a UFO sighting in Texas or not? People saw something, but what? Lots of controversy, lots of talk about a cover-up. Next on Larry King Live.
There was no even trail of any kind of flare behind it. It was a solid object with lights.
All of a sudden, at one time, they all just shot off in this direction over here.
I can't explain it. We couldn't explain it, but it was real.
Was going on in the area, but now they claim they were training that night in, is that true or is this a cover-up? Let's meet our panel to see what they make of this new information. Here in Los Angeles, Captain Robert Salas, the United States Air Force retired. Back in 1967, Bob was a missile launch officer at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. He says a UFO hovered over his nuclear missile site and disabled all the missiles. Wrote a book about it called Fated Giant. In Washington, James Fox, the documentary filmmaker of Out of the Blue, and in San Francisco, Michael Shermer, the publisher of Skeptic magazine, author of a new book titled The Mind of the Market. I know you weren't involved in this, Captain Salas, but does this story surprise you?
Doesn't surprise me at all. It seems like every time there's a credible UFO story out there that involves the Air Force has some kind of reason to discredit it. Certainly, that was the case in my story also.
We're now also joined by Sergeant Jim Peniston, United States Air Force retired, as is Captain Salas. He was at Woodbridge security supervisor at the Brentwaters Woodbridge base. He says he sat with a UFO on the ground for 45 minutes before it hovered over him and shot into the air. Why weren't you taken seriously, Sergeant Peniston?
Well, I believe that at the time we were taken very seriously. Just that I think the Air Force wanted to go ahead and make sure that they had a handle on the situation.
James Fox, I know you've been probing this for a long time. We've never got an answer to this. Why do you think the Air Force doesn't want this out?
Well, I mean, what are they going to say? We don't know what's flying around in our airspace with impunity?
Why can't they say that?
I think that possibly could. I wish they would. If the Air Force is listening tonight, why don't you tell us the truth? You know,
Why do you think they don't?
I think that to admit that there are objects of unknown origin flying around in our airspace with impunity and can fly rings around our fastest jets, they probably just are fearful of relinquishing that information. I want to sort of say something quickly
hold on, Jim. Michael Sherman, now that they've said that there were objects flying in the sky, do you think there's a kind of cover-up here, or this is a cop-out? What do you make of it?
I think before we assume there's some sort of conspiratorial cover-up, we have to remember that bureaucratic agencies are not always going to be swift to give a proper answer until they check with channels on what can be given to the American public in the interest of national security. Remember, we're at war, so we're not likely going to be told about top-secret aircraft and so on. So somebody has to check with somebody, up top before they leak it to the press what was actually going on. So we should expect that kind of thing, not a cover-up, just national security interests.
Now, do you deny do you think Captain Salas is lying? Do you think Sergeant Pennison?
No, not at all. I think we're not always reliable observers. It's hard to say. We honestly misunderstand or misperceive things. And I think before we say something is out of this world, let's first make sure that it's not in it. And just because we can't explain something doesn't mean it's extraterrestrial. Okay. And we have to remember that.
I got to get a break. Let me pick up with that and more on the comments of Michael right after this.
Like it's a bunch of BS. Since you asked me. But if y'all want to believe it, that's fine with me.
There was something that just came straight across our house and then it just zoomed right on off. And I don't know what it was, though.
My doubting, Thomas, I think we're just low flying airplanes.
Do you think your wife's a little bit crazy? No, it was not. I guarantee you it was not.
Okay.
Captain Salas, Michael Shermer is saying that you're not corrupt or anything. You just didn't see what you saw.
Well, actually, I didn't even see a UFO. I was in a capsule 60 feet underground, and the UFO was reported by my topside guard. A bright red oval object hovering outside the front gate.
He told you? He
told me. He was very agitated, frightened when he told me this over the phone. Now, the reason I believe that what he told me was true is because they had no access to our missile system. They had no way to control it. And while this object was up there, my missiles shut down. And these Minuteman missiles are very reliable, as you might imagine. Nuclear weapons we're talking about here. The system,
shut down.
They shut down. One after the other. I remember losing all of them. And not only that, but 10 more missiles were shut down under similar circumstances. UFOs were observed at another launch control facility. So this is 20 missiles in 1967 were shut down with UFOs.
And Sergeant, you sat with a UFO on the ground?
Yeah, I fully investigated it, myself and my team. We went around and checked the parameter of the craft out. We measured it. We took temperature readings. We took photographs. We did a complete examination, a thorough examination of the craft on the ground.
Henderson, talk about the symbols that you saw on the craft. I find that remarkable.
Well, the symbols were, if it wasn't astonishing enough just to have, a craft like that in front of you, then we're looking for crew compartments and things like that. In intakes, we find, measuring about 3 feet, we find symbols that were etched into the side of the craft that, to this day, I have no idea what they are, but it's amazing.
Sergeant, where did the craft go? Where did the craft go?
Well, after the 45 minutes, Larry, it went lifted off